Good evening. I'm Mike Marza as we take a look back at another day of testimony in the trial of Sean Diddy Combs. The focus of the trial returned today to that infamous video of Combs beating his ex-girlfriend Cassie in a hotel in Los Angeles. A hotel security supervisor in L.A. testified that Combs paid him $100,000 for he and two other employees to keep the video quiet and hand over the thumb drive. And then there was a chaotic moment in the courtroom early in the day. A woman had to be tossed out of the room after screaming at Combs. In just a moment, we're going to be joined again by ABC News legal contributor Bernarda Villalona to dig deeper into everything that unfolded in court. But first up, here's Darla Miles with a recap from Lower Manhattan.
It was Christina Coram, longtime personal assistant to Sean Diddy Combs, who reached out to the security office at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles to keep the March 2016 Cassie beating video out of the public domain. Eddie Garcia, one of the guards, testifying after pleading the Fifth and being granted immunity Tuesday morning that he and two co-workers accepted a payoff from Combs for a copy of the video and to delete it from the cloud. Mr. Combs sounded nervous. He was talking really fast, that he had too much to drink, and that I knew how things was with women when one thing led to another. He asked if I could provide the video. He stated that I sounded like a good guy and sounded like I wanted to help. He said something like this could ruin him. I told him that I talked to my boss and that he would do it for $50,000. He sounded excited. He said, "Eddie, my angel, I knew you could help. I knew you could do it." Garcia telling the court Combs wanted a copy of their IDs, saying Combs told them this only works if we're all on the same page and that they'd have to pay $1 million in damages if they breached the agreement. Also on the stand Tuesday, Derek Ferguson, a former CFO of Bad Boy Entertainment. Prosecutors explaining the company's financial structure to jurors, some yawning during his testimony. During cross-examination, Ferguson saying, "We were building companies from scratch. We all felt the mission. We all felt the need to be great." He set high, aggressive goals. His work ethic pushed the team. Defense attorneys for Combs asking, "Did you see anyone help Sean Combs commit crimes?" Ferguson answering no. "Did you see anyone enhance Mr. Combs' reputation or the reputation of any business through emotional, physical, or sexual abuse?" Ferguson answering, "I did not." "Did you see anyone enhance Mr. Combs' reputation or the reputation of any business through acts of prostitution?" Ferguson again answering no. But when defense attorneys asked, "You're testifying at his criminal trial today. Do you think highly of Mr. Combs?" Ferguson taking a very long pause, answering, "I don't know how to answer that." Now, testimony will resume tomorrow morning again at 9:30. At some point tomorrow, perhaps tomorrow afternoon, the third alleged victim in this case should be testifying under the name Jane Doe. And it's important to note that the anonymity of these alleged victims is very important to the court. This morning, federal prosecutors reported to the judge that they overheard a streamer outside court yesterday broadcasting the real name of Mia. The court said they're taking that seriously, and that particular streamer perhaps banned from the courtroom for the rest of this trial.
Our thanks to Darla Miles. Of course, that is the modern struggle that these courts have to deal with. It's one thing for, trustworthy entities like ABC News and ABC7. These streamers are a whole different deal. So it'll be interesting to see how the court deals with that. Let's go back to Mr. Garcia's testimony, because as you know here, we're joined by ABC News legal contributor Bernarda Villalona. So this is an important piece of testimony. Now, when you think about a security guard at a hotel, as part of this whole case, you may not think much about it. But what did his testimony do for the prosecution today?
So definitely we can see the value for the prosecution of granting him immunity. So remember, yesterday he was granted immunity, meaning that any crime that he testifies about, that he wouldn't be prosecuted for it unless he commits perjury while testifying. So this was crucial evidence for the prosecution in the sense of trying to prove the racketeering conspiracy, in the sense of trying to prove obstruction of justice, because Eddie Garcia, my angel, brought out that crucial evidence where Sean Combs was directly involved with trying to get rid of and wipe any evidence having to deal with this video that depicted him of committing a crime. So to hear that coming from a witness, an outsider, not someone within Diddy's camp, I think was riveting. When you were in that courtroom, you can hear a pin drop as all of us were hanging at his every word to see, oh my God, I can't believe Sean Combs was directly involved, because you would have thought that it would have been maybe his security, maybe someone, a part of his staff, but here you had Sean Combs directly making phone calls and talking to this security officer, and also meeting with the security officer and handing him the money, and also kind of making a threat by saying, let me see your identification, let me get the identifications of the other two officers, and he made a copy of it for his own records, because what's the damage there, right? What's the threat?
The backstory too, again, as you're seeing this video, it is graphic, and this is Cassie Ventura, and Sean Combs has admitted what happened in this video.
Yes.
So we can say this is Sean Combs assaulting Cassie Ventura at a hotel in Los Angeles in 2016 after what is alleged by prosecutors was a freak-off, one of these sexual endeavors that has become the center and the focus of this investigation. How is Mr. Garcia on the stand, and how was the jury viewing what he was saying?
Oh, so Mr. Garcia, he was very cooperative with the prosecution. So even though he got immunity, sometimes when you give witnesses immunity, they can be a bit combative with prosecutors. But Mr. Garcia wasn't combative at all. Whatever questions were asked of him by the prosecution or the defense, he was very well open in stating this is what happened. And he has a vivid memory of everything that happened. So while this was, almost 10 years ago, he remembers the conversation. He remembers the order of things. He remembers the multiple phone calls and who reached out to him, especially the timing of when they reached out to him. So let me tell you, Mike, when the incident happened, he was not working. When this whole tape happened, the assault on Cassie happened, he wasn't working. He came in later on that day. And from the moment that he came in, he was getting calls, and the call was coming from the chief of staff of Sean Combs asking about this video. And he was trying to abide and say, like, look, I don't have the authority to give that information to you. You'll have to reach out to my boss or get a subpoena for it. I can't just give it to you. But KK, she was insistent. She was persistent with contacting him, to the point where ultimately where Mr. Garcia broke was when he got a call on his personal cell phone while he was at home. And talking to KK, like, look, I really need this. My client really needs to talk to you. It's really important to him.
And so how does this tie into what Sean Combs is actually charged with?
So it ties into it in the sense of it tells a story and gives us more insight as to the man that Sean Combs was during that time. But it ties into the racketeering conspiracy having to deal with the criminal enterprise, because the prosecutors wanted to use that KK, Sean Combs' chief of staff, was also doing Diddy's dirty work. And
showing
here,
the enterprise.
Yes, and here you have KK making the phone calls, trying to get rid of this video, trying to assist Sean Combs, having him right next to her when she makes the initial call, and then giving it to Sean Combs, like, look, Mr. Someone wants to talk to you, and passes the phone to Sean Combs, and making this arrangement to try to get rid of this video. Also, the prosecution was keen in saying that security was also inside of that room when this arrangement was actually made. But again, the obstruction of justice, because you knew that a police investigation could have or was taking place, and that you had to get rid of this valuable piece of evidence. You got to think, this video speaks 1,000 words.
It showed
you would have showed this video to law enforcement or to any court or to any judge, and maybe he would have been prosecuted in California, not now because the statute of limitation has expired, but back then. And Sean Combs knew the value of it.
So tough to watch. Let's talk about we've heard from Cassie Ventura. We've heard from a woman who went by the name Mia.
Yes.
Now we expect to hear from a woman who's going to go by Jane.
Yes.
How pivotal is this for the prosecution, and what do we expect to learn?
Jane, this is enormous for the prosecution, because when we talk about Cassie, we know Cassie is a part of the racketeering conspiracy counts, but is also part of the sex trafficking as well as the transportation to engage in prostitution. Jane also has 2 counts on the indictment where she is the victim. So this proves half of the counts having to deal with Sean Combs being prosecuted. So it's very crucial. Again, we're going to hear similar conduct that we heard with Cassie. We're going to go back into the freak-off stage again. We're going to again hear about how these freak-offs took place, what transpired during these freak-offs, the violence that transpired, the escorts, you're going going to hear about Jane also being viciously beaten inside of her home by Sean Combs. So again, we're going to revisit another version of what Cassie testified to. So again, this is really important for the prosecution. And Mike, as you know, there are strength in numbers. So when it was just Cassie, then you can just say it's just Cassie. But now you're talking about another woman that's testifying to similar acts.
It will be an interesting challenge for the defense because you had Cassie Ventura, this 11-year relationship with Sean Combs at many points. And she said, she testified that she was in love with him throughout that whole period, even though she alleges the violence.
Yes.
And we've seen the violence in alleging everything else that she testified to. I'm curious from the defense point of view, and this is more the logistics, because the stories are horrific and in many cases will be heartbroken if they are true, as they allege. But from the defense's point of view, as a legal sort of strategy, do they do anything differently that they did not do, differently than they did, I guess, for Cassie Ventura? Because there was a lot of criticism for the way that they handled the cross-examination.
I was just about to tell you, Mike, I hope they choose another attorney to do the cross-examination, because the attorney that did the cross-examination of Cassie, she was out of her league. She wasn't ready to do a cross-examination. And I think that was a major downfall in the defense of Sean Combs, is by having that attorney without the experience to be able to cross-examine a prime witness as Cassie. And now we have another prime star witness as Jane.
So important. We have about 45 seconds left, but something weird happened in the courtroom this morning. What was this?
Not weird. It was unsafe.
And you felt
oh my
concerned.
God. So I was in the main courtroom because it came out of nowhere. So everyone was on notice that there was a woman that was mentally unstable that would be entering the courtroom and sitting with the public. So we were already watching her because we were actually taking bets as to when is she going to have this outburst. But she had an outburst talking about Sean Combs, that they're laughing, not taking this seriously. And all you heard from someone screaming, which was her, was like, oh, take your gun, or I want you to take your gun. I ducked because I was like thinking in my head, she's about to grab the gun. And I'm like, I'm not about to get shot for Diddy.
And so you ducked?
And she was dragged out of the courtroom by 3 court deputies. No, that doesn't do it justice. She was dragged. Like someone had to put their arm around her neck. Another one was pulling her arm. Another one was pulling her by her body, because she's also a big woman. So it took a while. She was very strong.
And then things calmed down and they were able to resume. And that was outside of the jury?
That was the good thing, thank God, that it wasn't in the presence of the jury, because an act like that could have caused a mistrial.
Well, we'll see what happens tomorrow, as we know. Much more to come, and just adding to the spectacle that's unfolding there in Lower Manhattan. Bernarda, great to see you as always.
Thank you, Mike.
As we say, court resumes tomorrow morning, so stay with Eyewitness News and ABC7 NY for any new updates. We also have a real-time blog following these moments that we talk about every evening right here. You can follow along in real time at ABC7 NY.